Shalom. Please excuse my voice, a little cold. Well, I'll do my best. We are now in the fourth day of Hanukkah. We all know the story of Hanukkah. We all know about the miracle of the oil. We all know about the miracle of the great victory of the Maccabim, the Hasmonean, over the greatest empire in the world at that time. We're talking about 2,200 years ago, maybe 2,300 years ago, when it happened. When the Syrian Greek Empire imposed upon the Jewish people to relinquish their religion, or at least the most fundamental principles of Judaism, such as they forbade the Jewish people to keep Shabbat, when Shabbat is the testimony of the creation of the world, and we are the ones who were given the gift of Shabbat. They also imposed upon the Jewish people to stop doing circumcision to their children, which is a law since time immemorial that the Jewish people kept à la lettre, religious or not. They imposed upon us to stop observing the holidays based, of course, on the Jewish calendar and Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of every month. They also imposed upon the Jewish people to stop doing the purity of the family, the laws of Nida, and other things. And above all, they wanted the Jewish people to stop learning Torah. At that time, the majority of the Jewish people were not that religious. And many among them became Hellenistic, and they joined the Greek civilization. But after this terrible decrees upon the Jewish people, this was too much. The Jewish people could not tolerate that anymore, to relinquish their practical laws of Judaism, which gives them the Jewish identity, was too much for them. And revolution started. It started with an old man, an old priest, Mattatyahu, the father of a great family of the Hashmonaim. His son, Yehuda, another son, Elazar, and others. They were capable of organizing a small army of maybe 6,000 Jews, not very much trained. And yet they went and defied the greatest army in the world, with elephants and very, very well trained army, which counted in the hundreds of thousands. How could they? What can they do? And they started the revolution, and God helped them. At that time, the Jewish temple, Bet HaMikdash, was all permeated with impurity. And there is a law that anyone who is tameh, anyone who is impure, is not allowed to go into the Jewish temple. Now, being impure involves many things that have to do with impurity of the body, or if you touch something that is not pure, and so forth, let alone the service of the Kohanim, of the priests, who had to be pure with perfection in order to do the services of the temple. For that, you needed also vessels that are pure. For example, the menorah, the candelabra, which had to be lighted every day with oil. The oil had to be pure. Nothing of the kind remained pure during that great, of course, in the days of the temple, when the temple was conquered, of course, so to speak, by the Greek army, and the Jews stopped the services of the Jewish temple. This could have meant the end for the Jewish people, in a way. So the Jewish people started a revolution. And they went from one war to another. They attacked the Greek Syrian soldiers, and they had victory after victory. The enemy really had enough. They brought thousands of soldiers, and nothing helped. And the little Jewish army was capable of doing things that are practically miraculous. Although in that tremendous war, we lost Yehuda, the Maccabi, a force by itself, by himself, a force that is unbelievable. But with the rest of the family, the war continued until they finally decimated the army of the Syrian Greek army, and the Jewish people had finally again control over the Jewish land, the land of Israel. And the first thing that was to be done is to go inside the temple to purify the temple and to start the service of the temple. They went into the temple, everything was tameh, everything was impure. What about the oil? So that they can light the candles. And the services could not go on without the menorah being lighted. But they found a little bottle of oil. The quantity of that oil sufficed only for one day. Now they needed 8 days in order to bring pure oil from Modi'in, another small village. It took them 4 days to arrive there and 4 days to come back with the pure oil. What are they going to do? A miracle happened. Apparently the Shekhinah, the divine presence, rested upon the temple, and the oil kept on going on. And the fire of the oil illuminated the temple, and by miracle that oil, which was enough just for one day, it went on lighting for 8 days. What does it mean? What is the meaning of that miracle? The meaning of that miracle, it means that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, came back, and now it is with the Jewish people. But I have a very big question here. Apparently, according to Jewish law, that miracle was not needed. And there is a rule in the Talmud that God is not going to perform any miracles if the miracles are not needed. Let's take, for example, the miracle of the splitting of the sea. Absolutely necessary for the survival of the Jewish people. I mean, the Egyptian army were coming behind the Jewish people, and definitely willing to decimate all of them. In that case, only a miracle can help. A miracle happened, that I understand. The 10 plagues also, miracles that practically were the reason behind the final redemption of the Jewish people from their slavery in Egypt. That was needed, we understand. All the miracles during the Midbar Sinai, the desert of Sinai, we understand. The miracle of the manna, the miracle of the water, the miracle of the smoke that went on and protecting the Jewish people from anything that came against them. And other miracles we know. All these were necessary. But the miracle of the oil in the temple in Jerusalem was not needed, because there is a law that says, Tum ahutra betzibur. If there is one person who is impure, he is not allowed to proceed with the services of the temple. But if everyone is impure, as well as the whole place, total general impurity, automatically you are allowed to continue with impure oil. You could light a different kind of oil that is not pure until you get pure oil. Then the miracle was not needed. Why then was it performed? That miracle which testified to the fact that God, Shekhinah, that God's divine presence is again with the Jewish people. There is only one reason behind this. The Jewish people at that time were enthusiastic. Finally, they got back their freedom. They got back their Jewish identity, their religion, and their beloved temple. They were so moved, they were so excited, enthusiastic, and full of love for God that they could not tolerate to light the menorah and to do the services of the temple with impure vessels, let alone impure oil. The flame of the oil represented a certain appearance of the Shekhinah. In their mind, it had to be pure, even though they were allowed, but they could not tolerate that. Therefore, they immediately sent people to Modi'in to bring pure oil, and in the meantime, a miracle happened. Why then God performed a miracle that is apparently not needed? Is because God saw the love of the Jewish people. Again, the Jewish people is in love with God, and they want to do everything that is perfect, everything with perfection. God says, my children love me, I love them. I'm going to perform a miracle for them, even though it's not necessary. And that's the reason why something very mysterious and very strange about the festival of Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah is not a holiday. We are allowed to work. Women are not allowed to work the first half hour, maybe as long as the lights of Hanukkah are on. So women, Jewish women, are not allowed to do any work such as laundry. But they are allowed, by the way, to bake and cook. But men are allowed to do any kind of work, which we are not allowed to do during Shabbat and holidays, right? But so does that mean that Hanukkah is nothing serious? There is a great phenomenon about Hanukkah, which is actual, and we all see it. Anyone with a Jewish heart has to confirm what I am saying. With the 8 days, during the 8 days of Hanukkah, don't you see something in the air? I mean, go into the streets of Jerusalem, of Tel Aviv, or wherever you go, in Jewish places. You will see Hanukkah in the air. You will smell the air of Hanukkah. You know we are during Hanukkah, in the days of Hanukkah. This phenomenon is not something unusual, because we see it in all the holidays. Let's say Pesach, Passover. The feeling of Passover is so strong that we could feel it even before the beginning of Passover. Immediately after Purim begins some kind of atmosphere that has to do with Passover, with Pesach. And during Pesach, of course, everybody knows the Chametz, the destruction of Chametz and everything. And we all know about Pesach. But I'm talking about the feeling of Pesach. Let's even take Purim, the festival of Purim, right? Just one day. And yet several days before Purim, you already smell the air of Purim. Rosh Hashanah. Before Rosh Hashanah, a whole month before Rosh Hashanah, everyone feels the presence of Rosh Hashanah. How much more for the day of Kippur, the great day of pardon. We all feel it. It's very hard to find a Jew who doesn't feel the atmosphere of those days. What about Sukkot? I remember as a child in Morocco. I remember a few days, 3 days or 4 days before Sukkot, the world was permeated with the air that has to do with the smell of Sukkot. Besides all the work and everything that was involved in building Sukkot and everything. But besides that, we also felt that the atmosphere has to do with Sukkot. Same thing with Shavuot. Same thing with everything. Hanukkah? Well, go into the streets of Jerusalem, Israel, during the days of Hanukkah. If you have a Jewish heart, you are going to feel that Hanukkah is here. What causes that miracle? Of course, there was a great miracle of the victory. But we cannot forget the losses that we had. We had a few losses. Very bad losses, such as the loss of Yehuda HaMaccabi and others. But nevertheless, this was a victory beyond comprehension, beyond description. No one could ever thought that you can fight the Syrian Greek army, the biggest army in the world. Before that, Hannibal. We all know the story of Hannibal, and we know how strong they were. At that time, of Hanukkah time, my God, 6,000 Jews, untrained, hardly trained in anything. They were able to face the mightiest army in the world and win a great victory to the point of practically getting rid of them from the Jewish land. Unbelievable. Yes, this was a great miracle. But this is a miracle that we can call a natural miracle. It's like today, the 6 Days War. Unbelievable, no question about it. But still, we lost many soldiers. Of course, nothing to compare with the losses of our enemies. But still, we deplore the loss of even one Jew, let alone a few more. That's what we call a natural miracle. But the miracle of the oil was a supernatural miracle, something that has to do with spirituality. And that's the reason why these 8 days are days for the Jewish people of Hallel and Hodah. That's the days in which we recite all Hallel during the prayers of the morning, of course. We sing and we eat donuts, and every place with its own traditions. And many traditions are involve Hanukkah also. But we will never forget the miracle of the oil, the unneeded, unnecessary miracle, and yet an expression of love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu towards his children, Israel. Let me just add another thought. In those times, which means about 2,200 years ago, there were two opinions. The opinion of Bet Shammai and the opinion of Bet Hillel. Those were the two great Talmudic scholars who led the generation with their thoughts and their Torah knowledge. According to Bet Shammai, how do we light the menorah of Hanukkah? According to Bet Shammai, pochet veholech, which means in Hebrew, it goes down, which means you start, the first day begins with 8 lights, and then the second day, 7, the third day, 6, fourth day, 5, and so forth. The last day, the 8th day, only one light. That's according to the opinion of Bet Shammai. According to Bet Hillel, is the opposite. You start with 1. The second day is 2. The third day, 3. By the end, the 8th day, you see the whole menorah lighted magnificently. 8 lights. We follow, of course, the opinion of Bet Hillel, as we know, as written in the Talmud. Yatz'a bat kol ve'amera halacha ke Bet Hillel. There was a divine voice that came out in the air that said, the Jewish law goes according to Bet Hillel. Of course, we respect very much the opinion of Bet Shammai, which in most cases we always know that the law follows Bet Hillel. Why? That doesn't mean that the opinion of Bet Shammai is to be not considered. It is considered. In fact, the halacha is like them in some cases. And by the way, the Kabbalists say that at the end of time, when the Mashiach is here, the law will follow Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai are known to be a little more strict than Bet Hillel. But Bet Hillel became nationally known as those who are lenient. And the law goes according to them because it's easier for the Jewish people to follow the opinion of Bet Hillel. But we have to understand, what is the philosophy behind the opinion of Bet Shammai, who said that you have to light, the first day should have all the lights, and you go on and regress and go down in those lights until you finally conclude with one light. And what is the philosophy behind the Bet Hillel opinion? The answer is this. We all know that in the very beginning of every holiday, everyone is enthusiastic. Let's take, for example, let's go to America or any place in the world except Israel. Any place in the world, from Morocco to America, we definitely celebrated 2 days of Passover, 2 days of Sukkot, 2 days of Shavuot, right? In Israel, we celebrate only 1 day of Passover, of Sukkot, of Shavuot, right? The reason behind this is something else that pertains to another kind of lecture. But we must admit that the first day of Passover, everyone is enthusiastic. The Seder, the 4 cups of wine, everyone is so enthusiastic about it. The second night, we are already, this enthusiasm has cooled off a little. Of course, religious people do it with all their heart and happiness. But we all must admit that the second day is already less enthusiastic than the first day. Same thing also with Sukkot, same thing also with all the holidays. Now, Hanukkah, we have 8 days, right? The first day, everyone is enthusiastic. The second day, that's nature, human nature. The first day, you are enthusiastic because it's new. The second day, little less, and so forth, until it completely extinguished. And by the end of the festival of Hanukkah, it should be a day which is cold, not much. There is not much enthusiasm, and so forth. That's human nature. Bet Shammai went according to human nature. They say we go according to enthusiasm, because enthusiasm means love for God. You love God the first day more than the second and more than the third and so forth. Why? Because that's human nature. So therefore they said the first day you fill up the menorah with all the lights in accordance with the sense of enthusiasm that everyone feels the first day. But then it goes and dwindles, right? So in accordance with that, also the lights are not that many following the days after. But Hillel have a different philosophy. They say it is true. That's human nature, that on the first day you are more enthusiastic than the other days that follow. But the Jewish people is something else. We are under the obligation to show love to Hashem Not only the first day, but the second day even more than the first day, and the third day even more than the 2 days before, and so forth. And the more you go on, you become more enthusiastic. That's not human nature. That's the nature of the Jewish people. It's against normal nature. We have to show our love to Hashem even more, the more we continue with that. And that's why they said you start with 1, and then you go on with 2, and 3, and 4, up to 8. On the 8th day, you see all the lights. And if you have a Jewish heart, and a heart that follows Jewish law, then you have to be even more enthusiastic, even happier than even the days before. And that's why, that's how we can understand the philosophy of Bet Hillel, and Jewish law follows Bet Hillel. Well, I would like to conclude with this thought and a bracha. I wish the Jewish people, first I wish the army of the Jewish people, Tzahal, great successes in their endeavors. May God protect them wherever they go, whatever they do, and let them have victories similar to the victory of the Maccabim and the Hashmonaim. At the same time, we pray that all the Jewish people should be healthy, and finally reaching the days and the age when the final redemption will come upon us. And thus we shall do the celebrations, all the celebrations of all the holidays, with much more enthusiasm and happiness than what we do today. And Baruch Hashem, Jews still do things. After so many years, thousands of years, we do the same thing. With every year, more enthusiasm, more happiness, more teachings, more knowledge of Torah. And the light of Torah is all upon us wherever you go. So many yeshivot, so many Torah institutions today. And thank God, the name of the Jewish people is upon everyone, every mind in the world. Apparently, the prophecies of the great prophets are about to be completely fulfilled to the best that we know about it. God bless you. Chanukkah Sameach. Happy Hanukkah. Amen.